Halloween is a time of horror, frights, costumes, and candy, but how did it all come to be? Shocking as it might seem, it's more than just running up to strangers and extorting them for food or an excuse to get away with murder and say, nah, it's fake, officer, I swear. But for me, personally, Halloween has always stood out due to the movies, games, and the excuse to dress in all black and not be judged, as well as the general spooky vibe. Very simple reasons, I'm aware, but for someone who talks about games and movies, I'd like to give credit where credit is due and talk about the origins of every bit of horror-related goodness for gracing us for centuries with spooks, scares, and diving into the unknown, which wouldn't be possible without the Celts. Thousands of years back when Rome ruled the Mediterranean, you had the Celts who celebrated this little thing called Samhain to mark the end of the harvest season and the start of winter. Oh yeah, and the collapse of reality, where the spirit world would breach the human realm or the dead would walk among the living, essentially serving as the Day of the Dead, not Dia de los Muertos, albeit odd that they both revolve around death, although don't get me wrong, these two are very different, where the spirits would vary from your friendly old grandfather who died last year to fairies, shape-shifting pukas, dulahots, which is essentially the Headless Horseman, slugas who kidnap you or steal your soul, and Lady Gwen with her pet pig who is also headless. I don't know why there's so many headless people, but I respect the enemy variety. Where for good spirits, people would welcome them and leave offerings outside of their homes, and for the bad ones, they would wear disguises to hopefully confuse them and not show up on death's door. That or light bonfires nearby in the hopes of warding them off, which developed into jack-o'-lanterns, based off the legend of Stingy Jack who scammed the devil to the point God was fearful of him and forbade him from entering heaven, being forced to walk upon the earth with nothing but a fire and a carved up turnip, to where people started to make their own versions to scare off wandering Jack or other evil spirits. Where they'd additionally set up communal bonfires to honor their ancestors or gods held by druid priests, where they would sacrifice cows to Chick-fil-A's dismay for good fortune alongside a feast. Although, not gonna lie, the whole sacrifice thing is a bit inconsistent from what I could tell, as these weren't super well documented till later on where there's a bigger focus on celebrating ancestry. Especially the severity of sacrifices and practices held which go from sacrificing cow bones or cows to children, which yeah, you don't need a scientist to tell you that's bad. But it's difficult when you have conflicting documents written by the Romans who hated the Celts, or people later on who demonized it, and the very limited information from the Druids and Celts. Just to be real with y'all, while there is a consensus, a lot of stuff is just speculation. I mean, tidbits like if you committed a crime during the holiday would mean a straight up execution, no questions asked, is kind of fun and kind of based. But I don't want to mislead people with certain facts or information around a pagan holiday with a lot of haters. Cause like any other pagan holiday, the Catholic Church of course had to step in and be a Debbie Downer. Seriously, just let me have my seance. I'm just trying to bring back the dead. No one will notice. Where they reinvented Samhain into All Hallows Eve in preparation for All Hallows Day or All Saints Day, which is where Halloween is derived from if you can't tell. But honestly, the Catholics didn't care too much. Like the bonfires and giving thanks to your ancestors was okay, as long as you keep Jesus in mind. As certain customs were Christianized, such as mumming or souling, where people would go door to door and do various things like praying away spirits, dressing up, or doing a little dance for entertainment or for food such as soul cakes, which sound cool and all till you realize it's just cookies with a cross in them. Although during this time, people would impersonate spirits and souls and steal people's offerings and other antics, which is probably why it's considered a pagan holiday, because they just had to dress up as demons and ghosts and piss off all the mobs and ruining it for everybody. Although they clearly didn't care that much back then, since kids would go around door to door asking for money and ale. And as the world grew, Irish and Scottish immigrants from the 19th to 20th century brought over these customs to the good old USA, where we immediately took it and corporatized it to make a bunch of money after people started throwing some parties over it and realizing they could make a bunch of money off of merch. So where it became the Halloween we know and love today, pumpkin jack-o'-lanterns and all. And through its influence, it spurred the ideas of horror and creativity all over the world, spurring the ideas of witches, monsters, hauntings, the occult, and what lurks in the night, where its influence covers every bit of media and has impacted society as a whole. Without it, we wouldn't have the horror movies, video games, or creative concepts we have today that delve into the themes of the unknown, untapped, and unrestrained. Where while Halloween doesn't feel the same as it did when we were younger, its impact as a whole has not only shaped my love for horror and monsters, but my appreciation for how fun it was dressing up and going door to door. Thankfully, not given razor blades or drugs, but rather good memories with old friends that can't be rekindled in the same way. But I can't imagine a world without Halloween and the horrors, frights, yet childlike wonder and joy it provides, even to this day. Where I hope I was able to teach you something about one of my favorite holidays with my own little spin. So when you go outside on this fateful night, you can at least have an appreciation for where it came from and how it is now. If you made it this far, please like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoy the kind of content I'm making. This is Balthazar, signing off.